I lay in the hospital bed, my heart full of anticipation and a touch of nervousness as I awaited the arrival of my second child. My name is Sage, and at 34 years old, I lead a happy life with my husband Nick, an advertising executive, and our 3-year-old son Atlas. Although Nick's busy schedule keeps him away from home often, he is a loving husband who cherishes our family. Nick and I met back in our college days. I was studying literature, while he was in the economics department. A chance encounter, sitting next to each other in the library, sparked daily conversations between us. I was drawn to his sincere gaze and gentle smile, and before we knew it, we had fallen in love. After graduation, we got married and bought a house in a quiet suburb of New York, where we started building our life together. As Nick spent long days at work, I found myself often caring for Atlas at home. Seeing Nick work tirelessly from early morning until late at night, I felt grateful for his dedication, although there were times when loneliness crept in. That's why, whenever he was home, the three of us made sure to cherish our time together. Atlas adored his daddy, and it warmed my heart to see his adorable smile whenever Nick walked through the door. When it was decided that I would be admitted to the hospital for this delivery, I felt a bit anxious. With Nick busy at work, I worried about who would take care of Atlas in my absence. That's when we were introduced to Aurora, a young babysitter. Aurora had a great reputation in our community, and after having her over a few times to discuss arrangements, her cheerful and endearing personality put my mind at ease. Sage, Aurora is someone we can truly trust, Nick reassured me. I believe we can confidently leave Atlas in her care. You're right, Nick. Having Aurora here is such a relief. Atlas has already warmed up to her and seems worry-free. Aurora, 28 years old, lives not too far from our home. With extensive babysitting experience, she has earned the trust of many families. When I first met her, she immediately connected with Atlas and brought a smile to his face. Seeing their interaction, I felt confident that I could rely on her to care for my son. Atlas, are you excited to play with Aurora? I asked. Yes, Mommy. Aurora is so nice and fun. Hearing those words from Atlas, I breathed a sigh of relief. Life in the hospital was more hectic than I had anticipated. Regular checkups, examinations, and preparations for delivery made the days fly by. Even so, I made sure to stay in touch with Nick and Atlas. Nick called every day, squeezing in time between his busy work schedule. Don't worry, Sage. With Aurora there, everything will be fine, he assured me, easing my concerns. One afternoon, as I gazed out the hospital window, the soft spring sunlight filtered through, and the green trees swayed in the breeze. Taking in the scenery, I found myself reminiscing about our college days, the time I spent with Nick. Our first meeting in the library, the walks we took around campus, and the day he proposed. Each memory was precious and dear to my heart. Just then, my cell phone rang. The screen displayed, "Home." I quickly answered, and Atlas's lively voice came through. "Mommy. Today, Aurora took me to the park. It was so much fun. That's wonderful, Atlas. Just wait a little longer until Mommy comes home, okay? Okay, Mommy. I'll be fine because Aurora is with me. His words put my mind at ease. During my stay at the hospital, my thoughts were always with Atlas. Just remembering his smile, his laughter, and his little hands filled my heart with warmth. Aurora was a trustworthy babysitter, and knowing that Atlas had grown attached to her allowed me to continue my hospital stay with peace of mind. However, I had no idea that the day would come when that sense of security would be shaken. One afternoon, I was undergoing a routine checkup. The doctor told me, "Everything looks good. In just a little while, you'll get to meet your baby," filling me with joy. After the examination, I returned to my hospital room, and my cell phone rang. The screen displayed, "Home." I immediately answered. "Mommy, it's me. Please come home soon." Atlas's crying voice echoed through the phone. "Atlas? What's wrong? What happened?" I asked, my concern growing. "Please come home soon, Mommy, please." Atlas just repeated those words through his tears. "It's okay, Atlas. I'll be home soon. Is Aurora with you?" I asked desperately, but Atlas didn't respond and continued to cry. Then the call disconnected. Shaken, I immediately called Nick. "Nick, I just got a call from Atlas, and he was crying. Do you know what happened?" Nick replied calmly, "Don't worry, Sage. Aurora is with him, so everything should be fine. He probably just got a bit lonely because he misses you. But for him to cry like that, something doesn't feel right. I'm worried." I couldn't suppress my unease. "I understand. I'll check on him as soon as I finish work. But trust that Aurora is reliable. Please take care of yourself and don't overdo it." Nick tried to reassure me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Atlas's crying voice wouldn't leave my mind, and my chest felt tight. The next day, I received another similar call from Atlas. "Mommy, please come home soon. I'm begging you." Atlas's voice sounded even weaker, as if he was exhausted from crying. "Atlas, can you tell Mommy what happened?" I asked desperately. "I can't, Mommy. I absolutely can't, it's nothing, but I want to see you soon." Atlas just kept repeating those words. As my anxiety and worry grew, I decided to call my mother, Zoe. Living nearby, she has always been a strong support for our family. "Mom, Atlas calls me every day, crying. Something doesn't feel right." I explained, my voice shaking as I sought her help. "That is concerning. All right, Sage. I'll go over to the house right away to check on him. Don't worry." Zoe replied calmly. While Zoe made her way to our home, I spent anxious hours in my hospital bed. All I could do was wait and pray that everything would be all right. A few hours later, Zoe called me. "Sage, Aurora seems normal, but Atlas appears frightened. Something feels off." I knew it, it's not like Atlas to cry like that. Zoe's words heightened my unease. "Listen, What do you think about installing hidden cameras, just to be safe? I hate to think Aurora might be doing something, but we may need to in order to find out the truth. Zoe suggested. You're right, Mom. For Atlas's sake, I want to know the truth. I agreed with her proposal. After that, Zoe swiftly set up the hidden cameras. To ensure Atlas's safety, I had to uncover the truth, no matter what it took. From that point on, each day was filled with anxiety. Even though I wanted to believe Aurora was a trustworthy babysitter, I couldn't ignore the fact that Atlas's behavior was unusual. My maternal instincts told me something was amiss. Then the day arrived to review the hidden camera footage. Sitting on my hospital bed, I prepared to watch the recordings with Zoe by my side. My heart pounded fiercely, and my hands felt clammy. I was scared to discover the reason behind Atlas's tearful pleas, but at the same time, I needed to know. Sage, are you ready? Zoe looked at me and said. Then, in an effort to calm me, she added, we don't know what the footage will show, but let's watch it calmly. Yes. Thank you, Mom. For Atlas's sake, I have to face the truth. I took a deep breath and focused on the screen. The first few minutes of the footage showed nothing unusual. Aurora was seen playing with Atlas, laughing cheerfully, and Atlas had a smile on his face. However, gradually, that smile began to fade. Atlas, clean up your toys properly. Aurora's voice suddenly rang out sharply. I'm sorry, Aurora. I'll clean them up right now. Atlas responded, sounding frightened. The subsequent footage showed a series of scenes where Aurora harshly scolded Atlas. She frequently raised her hand and made gestures that seemed to threaten him. Watching those scenes, I felt a tightness in my chest. This is terrible. How could she do this to little Atlas? I whispered. Sage, the footage isn't over yet. Let's keep watching. Zoe placed her hand on my shoulder as she spoke. As we continued, the video showed Aurora forcibly seating Atlas in a chair and forcing him to eat. Atlas cried, saying, I don't want to eat anymore, but Aurora ignored his pleas and forced him to eat. How could she? I said, tears streaming down my face. Sage, this is evidence. Let's make sure to see everything Aurora is doing. Zoe's voice was calm, but anger flickered in her eyes. In the following footage, Aurora was seen making a phone call. We listened intently, focusing on her conversation. It's all right. Everything is going smoothly. Aurora seemed to say. Who could she be talking to? I muttered. I don't know, but it sounds like she's conspiring with someone. Zoe replied. As we proceeded further, it became clear that the person Aurora was talking to on the phone was Nick. From her words, it was evident that the two were secretly involved. I can't believe it. Nick and Aurora. I was left speechless from the shock. Sage, this is serious. If Nick and Aurora are conspiring together, it might explain why Atlas has been crying. Zoe calmly analyzed the situation. I was overwhelmed by anger towards Nick and the sadness of being betrayed. I couldn't forgive him for deceiving our family and putting Atlas in danger. Why? How could this happen? I continued to cry. Sage, try to stay calm for now. We need to think about what to do next. Zoe attempted to soothe me. You're right. Our top priority is to protect Atlas. Then we have to consider what to do about Nick and Aurora. I wiped my tears, solidifying my resolve. That night, I decided to discuss the next steps with Zoe. We agreed to continue recording with the hidden cameras to gather more evidence. It was crucial to obtain solid proof of Aurora's abuse and Nick's betrayal. Sage, let's start by increasing the number of cameras to closely monitor Aurora's actions. We need to record more of her abusive behavior. Zoe suggested. I think that's a good idea. We need clearer evidence of what Aurora is doing. I agreed. The next day, Zoe returned home to install new cameras. As I waited at the hospital, I felt helpless not being able to do anything myself, but I was grateful that my mother was taking action. Sage, I've set up the additional cameras. We should be able to monitor Aurora's behavior in more detail now. Zoe reported over the phone. Thank you. I truly appreciate it. Now we can gather evidence to protect Atlas. I felt a slight sense of relief. From then on, we closely monitored Aurora's actions. We continued to record her abusive behavior, reviewing detailed footage every day to see what she was doing. Meanwhile, I made sure to call Atlas every night. When I asked, Atlas, how was your day? He would respond in a small voice, I played with Aurora, but it was a bit scary. Why was it scary? I gently inquired. When Aurora gets angry, she makes a scary face. I'm always scolded for being slow at cleaning up my toys. Fear could be heard in Atlas's voice. I see. But Atlas, it's going to be all right. Mommy will be home soon. I tried to reassure him. The footage from that day indeed showed repeated instances of Aurora harshly reprimanding Atlas. In this way, we succeeded in gathering further evidence. Numerous instances of Aurora's abusive behavior towards Atlas were recorded. Sage, I think we have sufficient evidence now. Zoe said. It's all thanks to you, Mom. Thank you. But we still need to verify Nick's actions. I think it's necessary to know how deeply he's involved with Aurora. I was considering our next move. The following day, Zoe decided to track Nick's movements. To capture any scenes of him meeting secretly with Aurora, we decided to thoroughly investigate Nick's phone records and emails. Sage, look at this. It shows Nick meeting with Aurora. The photograph Zoe showed me depicted Nick and Aurora talking intimately in a hotel lobby. This makes their relationship clear. Looking at the photo, my anger surged even more. Seeing my reaction, Zoe tried to calm me down. Sage, let's take a moment to compose ourselves. We have plenty of evidence. We should think about what to do next. You're right. With all the evidence we've gathered, it might be time to consult with a lawyer to take legal action. Regaining my composure, I began planning for the future. Zoe and I started researching to find a trustworthy lawyer. We contacted lawyers recommended by friends and acquaintances, arranging to meet with them. Sage, this lawyer specializes in family issues and has extensive experience in child protection cases. Zoe shared the information she had found. Maybe we can get the help we need to protect Atlas. With hope, I decided to reach out to that lawyer. Our initial consultation with the lawyer was an important step for us. Zoe and I presented all the evidence we had collected, providing detailed explanations. This is very compelling evidence. It clearly proves the babysitter's abusive actions and your husband's involvement. Based on this evidence, we can take appropriate legal measures. The lawyer said with a serious expression. Please, protect our son. I pleaded through tears. Of course. We will support you with all our resources. Let's start by applying for an emergency protective order and consider moving Atlas to a safe location. The lawyer responded assertively. Following the lawyer's instructions, we prepared the necessary documents and proceeded with the legal process. As the proceedings advanced, we gradually found hope. Zoe and I worked closely with the lawyer, frequently communicating and implementing strategies to ensure Atlas's safety. We were getting ready to take appropriate action against Aurora's abuse and Nick's betrayal. Sage, we've made a significant step forward. Zoe continued to encourage me. Thank you, Mom. I'm truly grateful to have you by my side. I couldn't have come this far on my own. I expressed my gratitude to my mother. After successfully giving birth and being discharged from the hospital, I went straight home. I was determined to confront Nick with all the evidence. Although I desperately wanted to see Atlas, I prioritized his safety and left him, along with my newborn child, in Zoe's care. I waited alone for Nick to come home. Taking deep breaths, I solidified my resolve. Anger and sadness intertwined in my heart, but I strived to maintain my composure. When Nick returned from work, he seemed surprised to find me there unexpectedly. Sage, what's going on? Did something happen? Nick asked with concern. Nick, sit down. We need to talk. I said calmly. As Nick sat on the sofa, I took out the camera and began playing the footage. Scenes of Aurora abusing Atlas, followed by Nick and Aurora's secret meetings, were revealed one after another. This is. Nick's expression showed shock and confusion. These are the evidence of you betraying our family and Aurora abusing Atlas. I spoke calmly, but my voice trembled. Sage, it's a misunderstanding. Nick stumbled over his words. A misunderstanding. You call this a misunderstanding? I pointed at the footage. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is reality. Do you have any idea how much Atlas has been suffering? Nick's face turned red, and he clenched his fists. I'm telling you it's a misunderstanding. This is all a lie, a setup. Nick shouted and threw a sofa cushion. A lie. Do you think the footage is lying? I tried to maintain my composure. At that moment, Aurora suddenly entered the house. Perhaps Nick had called her. She looked at me, surprised and flustered. "Aurora, come here," I said calmly. "Sage, what's going on? What's happening?" Aurora asked nervously. I played the camera footage, showing her acts of abuse. "This is what you did to Atlas. You have no room for excuses." I spoke calmly, but anger welled up inside me. Aurora froze for a moment, then her expression turned to anger. "This is all nonsense. You set this up, didn't you, Sage?" Aurora raised her voice and knocked a vase off the table. "Nonsense? Aurora, no one will believe your lies," I said firmly. Nick's anger exploded again. "Sage, enough already. Whatever you do, it won't affect us." He raised his fist and hit the wall. "You two are the ones who should stop. I won't tolerate your lies and violence any longer," I retorted resolutely. Nick and Aurora's aggressive attitudes intensified. "What evidence? What good does this do?" Nick shouted, slamming the table. Aurora stepped forward, pointing her finger at me. "You're the worst, doing this based on mere delusions. I haven't done anything wrong." "Aurora, the footage speaks for itself. Your excuses won't work," I answered firmly. "Shut up." Aurora raised her voice and kicked furniture as she paced around the room. "I'm telling you, this is all nonsense." Nick, unable to contain his anger, approached me menacingly. "You're trying to trap me, aren't you? I can see right through your schemes." "Schemes?" "Nick, this isn't a scheme or anything of the sort. It's reality. It's proof that you betrayed our family and Aurora abused Atlas." I stood my ground. "You'll regret making me angry." Nick clenched his fist and hit the wall again. "Nick, Aurora, you don't understand the severity of your actions." I stared at them sternly. "I have all the evidence. Further excuses are pointless." Aurora's face turned bright red as she screamed, "Shut up. No matter what you say, I'm absolutely not in the wrong. Aurora, it's over. Your actions deserve legal punishment," I stated coldly. Nick approached me again. "Sage, backing us into a corner won't do you any good. You'll only get yourself involved." "What do you mean I'll get involved? I'm fighting to protect Atlas." I glared back at him. Then, I declared resolutely, "Nick, Aurora, I will now take legal action. I will never forgive your actions, for the sake of protecting Atlas." Afterward, Zoe and I proceeded with legal procedures alongside our lawyer, filing a lawsuit against Nick and Aurora. Several months later, Aurora was found guilty of abuse, and Nick's actions were made public, resulting in societal sanctions against him. Sage, Atlas's safety is finally secured. We did the right thing. Zoe hugged me and said, "Thank you, Mom. Having you by my side gave me such strength." I expressed my gratitude to her. Later, I went to pick up Atlas. He had been staying at Zoe's house and seemed relieved to see me. "Mommy, thank you for coming back." Atlas hugged me, tears welling up in his eyes. "Atlas, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for putting you through such a scary experience. But it's all right now. Aurora won't be able to come near you anymore." I hugged Atlas, reassuring him. "What happened to Daddy?" Atlas asked anxiously. "Daddy, well, he has to take responsibility for the bad things he did. But don't worry. We will continue to live strongly together." I replied gently. Nick and Aurora's lives after that were entirely different from ours. Aurora had to face penalties and became isolated from society, following the court's orders. Her actions became publicly known, and she faced criticism from many people, subjected to cold stares wherever she went. Even when looking for work, her past crimes affected her, making it difficult to find employment. Meanwhile, Nick lost credibility at his workplace and was fired from his company. As his actions came to light, friends and colleagues distanced themselves from him, leading to a lonely existence. He spent his days consumed by regret. In his new apartment where he started living alone, Nick gazed at old photographs. The photos depicting happy times with his family now felt like a distant past to him. He picked up a photograph and let out a deep sigh. "Ah, what have I done?" Nick lamented his mistakes. Unable to find a new job, he struggled to make ends meet. Realizing how much his past actions had derailed his life, he led a solitary existence. One day, while walking in the city, Nick unexpectedly ran into Aurora. They looked at each other, initially surprised, then their expressions shifted to something more complex. "Aurora," Nick said in a low voice. "I never thought we would end up like this." "You're right. But this was our fate," Aurora replied calmly. Her words lacked the warmth they once held. The two stood in silence for a while, then began walking their separate paths. They never crossed paths again, each continuing their lonely lives while facing their own pasts. Meanwhile, we were preparing to move in order to start a new life. Our family bonds grew even stronger, and we were able to look to the future while supporting each other. "Mommy, what's our new home like?" Atlas asked excitedly. "It's a wonderful place, Atlas. I've made lots of preparations so you can feel safe and comfortable there," I answered with a smile. After moving into our new home, we quickly adapted to the environment. Atlas made new friends and enjoyed kindergarten. I found a new job, and Zoe continued to support us. One day, while playing in the garden of our new home, Atlas said to me, "Mommy, this is truly a wonderful place. I want to play here forever." "You're right, Atlas. Let's create plenty of happy memories here," I replied with a smile. We began cherishing the small joys of daily life while enjoying our new existence. The bonds within our family deepened further, and we continued moving forward towards the future,